Good morning. The time is now 10:40, and I would like to call this sitting which one is it? Yes. The 18th public hearing of the Joint Select Committee on State Enterprises for the 11th Parliament to order. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anthony Vera, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all. I really appreciate your attendance today. Before I ask other members of the committee to introduce themselves, may I just indicate for the record, anybody excuses? Okay, all right. So, we're all present. So may I ask committee members to please introduce themselves?
Adrian Leons, member.
Wade Mark, member.
Fazal Karim, member.
Brigadier General Ansel Antwine, member.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sherry Ann Critchlow Coburn, member.
Good morning, Garvin Simonet, member.
Thank you. I understand our vice chair is still on his way. Now, I also understand that officials from the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries and the Ministry of Finance are present. So I will ask members of the Lake Asphalt Company to first introduce yourselves, and then the other ministry officials. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Christopher John Williams, Chairman.
Morning, everyone. Roger Wiggins, Chief Executive Officer.
Christopher Hagley, Deputy Chairman.
Good morning, everyone. Claire Gomez Miller, Board Director and Chairman of the Board Audit and Risk Committee.
Stephen McClatchy, Board Member and Chairman of the Finance, Investment and Strategy Committee.
Good morning, everyone. Ayana Sylvester, Corporate Secretary.
Good morning, everyone. Penelope Bradshaw-Niles, Permanent Secretary, acting in Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries.
Good morning, everyone. Sheldon Butcher, the Director of the Downstream Petroleum Management Division of the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Durham-Kisoon. I am Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance.
My name is Sita Bidesi, Acting Business Analyst, Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, everyone. Inshan Mohammed, Senior Audit Analyst, Investment Division, Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, everyone. Pamela Ragby, Acting Senior Planning Officer, Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries.
Okay, thank you. Before we start the official proceedings, just a couple housekeeping matters. I'd be grateful if you could turn off your cell phones or put them on silent. Also, if you could turn on the microphone before speaking and then turn it off after speaking. Time is limited, and we have to conclude by midday, and there's a lot we have to cover. So accordingly, I would ask participants to keep questions and answers as brief and as focused as possible so that we can maximize the number of persons who want to contribute. This Joint Select Committee is a creature of the Constitution. Under Section 66A(d), we are appointed to inquire into and report to both houses of Parliament in relation to your administration, the manner of the exercise of your powers, your methods of functioning, and the criteria you use when exercising your powers and functions. In other words, our task is to review and evaluate the efficiency, economy, and effectiveness of your operations, with a view towards ensuring transparency and public trust, and that you're properly fulfilling your mandate, and that your policies and processes are clear and accessible to relevant stakeholders and the public. So it's all about transparency, good governance, and accountability. However, in addition to our oversight function, these sessions also afford you an opportunity to share your challenges, your disappointments, your concerns, your achievements, and to make recommendations. So they provide a unique opportunity to increase public awareness, understanding, and support in respect of your operations. The purpose of this meeting is to commence its inquiry into the operations of Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago 1978 Limited and to determine its effectiveness at fulfilling its mandate. Our role is firstly to examine the issues which arose based on your written responses to the committee's questions, and secondly, to aid the company in improving operations, resulting in a more efficient and effective organization. This meeting is being broadcast live on Parliament Channel and on radio 105.5 FM. So, welcome again. And I shall now invite the CEO and Chairman to make brief opening remarks and to provide us with some salient information about the company.
Morning again, everyone. Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago 1978 Limited was incorporated on April 27, 1978 as a wholly state-owned company of Trinidad and Tobago. We are owned as a subsidiary of the Trinidad and Tobago Oil Company Limited, which is called Trintoc. We were subsequently made a wholly state enterprise in 1998. The primary role of Lake Asphalt is to monetize the asphalt from the pitch lake. The company is therefore involved in the extraction, refining, processing, and marketing of dried asphalt, cement, and asphalt-based derivatives, and we are also responsible of managing of the pitch lake. It would be remiss of me not to mention that we are in the bitumen business. As a company, we provide to customers bitumen that we would have gotten from petrolation. At this time, I'll hand over to the chairman if you would like to add anything to that.
Yes, good morning again. What I would like to add, I would like to tell the committee and by extension the country, Lake Asphalt is one of the country's jewels, and it's a sleeping giant. We have continued to operate, unfortunately, the way we did in 1867. Our process and our technology has remained the same, and we are attempting to compete with technology that is current. So at this point in time, we market refined asphalt that we ship to customers in a wooden drum that is not user-friendly, and we have lost significant market share. What this board has done, this board has invested in research and development, and we have developed a new form of the material, which is a powdered form of the material, which will now make it more user-friendly. And the results of this new material, you require less material to get the performance grade when you are modifying your bitumen. All the results, all the tests on this material, it's proven that it's a fantastic material. The patent is now pending. We have applied for a patent. And we've had our proof of process, and we will have our first train of this new plant and new process running by the last quarter of 2019. This is supposed to significantly enhance our revenue. We are competing with polymers made by large companies like DuPont and Shell and these people, but we have the best modifiers in the world. The best modifier in the world is made by the hands of God. And once we start to monetize it in a real way, Lake Asphalt will make us a significant contribution to GDP.
Thank you, Chairman. Now, the floor is now open. I believe, Mr. Leonce, you had a question.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm happy to hear what you just said, because I think that in this country, where we have, as you say, sleeping giants, we need to be able to maximize it and improve it as best as we can. So I'm glad that we are going into new technology and looking to compete with the best. I've looked at your strategic plan 2017-2021, and I would like some clarification on some of your major capital projects as it supports this strategic plan. Mainly, I looked at three main ones, one being the upgrade of the facility, which I'm seeing as on hold, right? The second one being the new dried asphalt plant, and the third one being the construction of a coal mill TLA plant. The reason I'm asking specifically on those three are because, one, the contributions, the budgets are significant, and two, they all seem to have some issue in terms of completion. So I just want to know in terms of how those projects affect the strategic plan, what is the status of them, and how we plan to mitigate against some of the issues.
There was a plan before to build a super still and put the dried asphalt now into plastic bags. There was, when we came into office and we met with a particular company, we asked them, we would like you to provide a sample of the material that this new plant can produce so we can compare it with what we produce right now, which we have as our gold standard. They told us they can't do that. And I asked why. He says because to do that, they'll have to build a pilot plant. And that was not good enough. If we had to expend $80-something million in a technology that has not proven, of course, it's not an investment that we will want to pursue. No, we have replaced that with CMTLA, which is a result of research and development, and we have developed this new product. We have proof of process. We have taken our materials all over the world. Now remember, this is not a technology that you can go anywhere and purchase. Nobody does this. So we have to develop the process. We have to choose the machinery, etc. So we have done that. We have taken our materials all over the world, have it tested on different systems, and we now have proof of process. So we are in the process of doing the investment proposal to submit to Line Minister and the Ministry of Finance.
I saw specifically with that project, you all have a proposed org structure and bringing in new employees to support that whole thing, yeah? What is the timelines, the proposed timelines for operationalizing this new venture?
We anticipate that this plant will be operational. Stretch will be end of 2019. That's our stretch time. The first train will be a 60-ton-an-hour plant. That will be our first train.
Okay. And what impact you anticipate in terms of revenue percentage that this would have on Lake Asphalt?
Tremendous. Now remember, we have the best modifier in the world.
Yeah.
But if you are selling me a modifier that is we sell a quarter-ton of asphalt in a wooden drum, you have to find a way to get this into your bitumen tank. So of course you have to break it open, you need to crush it again, and you need to get it into your bitumen tank. as opposed to polymer that you got in a 20 kg bag, right? Things like SBS, just styrene, butadiene, styrene, or styrotex, if you want to call it that. It is easy for the end user to get this into his bitumen tank to modify his asphalt. So when we get to that stage where we can now give the customer this material in a 20 kg bag or in a super sack, we're now in the business, right? Not to add that packaging, as we do right now, adds significant costs to our material. So at this point in time, with what we produce, we are not very competitive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simonet, you had a question?
Mr. Chairman, two questions. One, I note that the company indicates that it finances all its projects from its own resources, and the company has no debt. Is it that this new plant will be fully funded by the companies, from the company's own resources?
At this point in time, that's what we are hoping to do.
And you see no challenges in the targets for completing both the funding and the work to be done to bring on the new plant?
No, we don't. Once it's approved by the investment division, we are ready to go.
Switching to a question that was, I believe, put by the committee in writing. The company seems to have expressed a concern on the likelihood of increased competition should bitumen be imported, should the market for bitumen be liberalized and bitumen imported, I am assuming, by competitors. What do you see to be the challenges there, and what issues do you think this committee ought to have close to its deliberations in order to, I would suggest, assist the company in its successful continued operations?
Well, bitumen has formed part of a significant part of our revenues over the years. I mean, it has accounted for over 80% of our revenue. We were the sole agents for Petrotrin's bitumen. So therefore, everybody that needed bitumen in Trinidad and Tobago paid Lake Asphalt. We gave them documentation. They went to Petrotrin and collected their bitumen. With Petrotrin no longer in the picture, we now have to import. And we also had to increase our storage capacity. And at this point in time, I would like to commend the team at Lake Asphalt for really pulling out all the stops to increase our storage capacity. At this point in time, we have brought in our first shipment of bitumen from CARICOM country in Barbados. Right, that shipment is here. I mean, it involves a lot more logistics than it did before. And of course, there's going to be a price increase. At this point in time, the reason for going to Barbados is because of the CET. And our CET is 30%. Thereby, it made the other international players uncompetitive. But if the CET is lowered, then we will have to shift gears and go to these international competitors. They will no longer make Barbados very competitive.
Mr. Chairman, can you expand a little bit on this question of the importation dynamics of bitumen? So bitumen imported from Barbados. Firstly, does Barbados have sufficient quantities to satisfy the demand that Lake Asphalt has?
Yes, they do.
And in terms of the CET issue, I'm assuming that under our CARICOM arrangements, the product enters Trinidad at a lower rate of
duty-free.
Duty-free. So that ultimately the Barbados product imported by the company is made available at a reasonable price, albeit increased because of the need to transport it from Barbados as opposed to from Point of Pierre.
Yes, it is. And what is good about Barbados, we have a delivery time of only 7 days. Whereas when you're looking at your other suppliers, foreign suppliers, you're probably talking a minimum of 6 weeks. So Barbados, at this point in time, is quite an attractive option.
And do you anticipate, so what therefore is a fundamental driver of the concern expressed in the submission that the liberalization of the market could lead to pressures on the company?
Well, if the CET is lowered or even removed, it opens the market to just about anybody important. We still think, despite that, we have a competitive edge because we have the finances, we have the storage capacity, right? So I think that gives us quite a substantial edge. In terms of our asphalt cement, we will maintain that monopoly because there's nobody that does asphalt cement. What the asphalt cement is our 180-200 bitumen that we blend with the TLA that is used to pave our highways, etc. So there's no competition there. Where we'll have competition is in our 60-70 bitumen, which is used to pave all the other roads.
And other than price, for example, the procurement of bitumen perhaps at maybe a more competitive price than that from Barbados if the CET were removed or lowered. Are there any other issues regarding bitumen from outside the region that you would think relevant for this committee's consideration?
Well, like I said, if the CET is lowered or even removed, it opens the door for the larger players. I mean, economies of scale. If you're dealing with large players like Timco Tanks or Sargent Marine or one of these companies, I mean, not even Barbados can compete, or even Petrojam. Right? Petrojam, they produce like about 400 barrels a day for export purposes, and that's solely in Suriname. None of these companies will be able to compete with those giants. That's the harsh reality.
Final question, Mr. Chairman. Is there any issue as to quality from bitumen acquired regionally as opposed to bitumen coming from outside the region?
Well, what I can tell you is our market here is not quality driven. It is just penetration grade, and basically penetration grade is a sort of a viscosity test. It does not tell you how the asphalt is going to perform when it is laid on a road. But what I can tell you is that the bitumen that we are buying from Barbados, the performance grade is 6416, meaning that on the high end, you're talking 64 degrees Celsius. And on the low end, it's minus 16 degrees, well, which is not relevant to here. So in terms of the PG grade, for the bitumen that we are importing, it's excellent. Petrotrin's PG was 54.22, right? So the quality is even better than what we are getting from Petrotrin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I'd just like to follow up on the heels of my colleagues' questions. Can you provide this committee with an appreciation of what the real prices would be having regard to your recent importation of bitumen, particularly when you compare the proposed price increases with what would have existed under the Petrotrin Lake Asphalt arrangement. What is going to be the new price for bitumen, let's say, that contractors would have to purchase from Lake Asphalt, as compared to what it would have been before Petrotrin stopped supplying your organization with bitumen?
Right, to put it in perspective, Petrotrin, we were selling 60-70 for $19 an imperial gallon. Our imported stuff right now that we have here, we are talking about $23 a gallon. So there is an increase.
And how would you suggest this will impact on overall infrastructural costs? Well, I guess you may not be in a position to deal with that, so let me not burden you with that. How is this going to impact on the overall operations of Lake Asphalt in the context of employment levels at the plant? We understand you have over 300 workers, including casual workers at this time, or temporary contract workers, call it what you will, along with permanent. Do you anticipate with these changes your operations as it relates to employment levels would be adversely affected, or would you be able to maintain employment levels at the plant, Lake Asphalt?
Yes, we will be able to maintain our levels at this point in time. Because, like I said, asphalt cement, that monopoly is going to remain. There are several pluses on Lake Asphalt's side. The fact that we have storage. The contractors, unless they invest significantly in increasing storage capacity, right, it will be more economical to buy from Lake Asphalt than they going outside there and sourcing material on their own.
Okay. Can you, maybe the CEO or your good self can help us here? You spoke about this company being the jewel, one of our jewels. Could you explain why you have not been able to provide the Parliament and or the Minister of Finance with the financials, audited financials of Lake Asphalt for the years 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017? Right. What is responsible for that?
When we came into office, we met 10 years of unaudited financials. And I'll have Director Miller brief you on that.
Okay. So it was apparent that the company's focus was not on presenting financial statements. So it meant that when we took up office in 2016, we did the annual general meeting, and we had in May 2016, we presented 2009 and 2010 audited financial statements. In 2017, we had another annual general meeting, and this time we presented we presented 2011, 2012, and 2013 audited financial statements. Unfortunately, those financial statements were qualified because the record keeping within the organization was extremely poor. So a lot of the substantiating documents to support the preparation of the financial statements were not present within the organization. So it meant that we were forced to have the 3 years qualified, but we still presented at the AGM. We were able to declare a small $1 million dividends for the first time, because we were able to demonstrate that there was profitability within the organization. During this year, 2018, we are currently The auditors are in right now, and they're auditing the 2014, 2015, and the 2016 statements. So we expect that in early 2019, we'll be having another annual general meeting and presenting those 3 years. So far, it appears that those accounts will not be qualified. So we have been able to get a lot more of the documentation and provide the information and documentation that the statutory auditors required.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, may I ask the chairman or the CEO whether you can share with this committee or advise this committee whether there is any partnership with any foreign or local entities aimed at partnering with Lake Asphalt for mining of our pitch or the lake? And if so, can you identify those entities for this committee?
At this point in time, there are no such partners or partnerships.
Can you indicate to this committee whether you are aware of any agreement signed between Lake Asphalt and Beijing Construction engineering company for partnering with Lake Asphalt as it relates to the mining and monetizing of our asphalt? Are you aware of any such?
No such agreement has been signed. The agreement that we signed with Beijing Construction is a distributorship agreement. So if such an agreement exists, I am unaware of that. But.
Okay. Can you make available that agreement? I think we did, in fact, request.
It's there. It's in your binder.
That has been there?
Yes.
The latest one I'm talking about?
Yeah. There's only one.
You only have one?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, did we receive that? It is in our package? All right. I'll just pause for this time.
Mr. Karam, and then we'll come back to Mr. Mark.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all. Mr. Chairman of Lake Asphalt, you indicated that the company was not very competitive. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. And at some point in time in the responses you gave to us, it was mentioned that while there was some tangible improvements throughout the organization, they were not sufficient to make it best in class. Could you, for example, indicate to the committee what steps have you taken, bearing in mind that you have identified the company as not being competitive? Why is it not competitive, and what are you doing to make it competitive?
Like I said before, our core product, the modifier that we produce, which is the refined asphalt, which is used to enhance the properties of bitumen, which traditionally over the years has been used on specialty pavements, namely airport runways, bridges, decks, heavily used intersections, etc. But like I said, we're working with 1816 technology, 67 technology. And there was no research and development that revolves around this particular product. It was never changed. So the world continued along and we lagged behind. So our research and development now, we have developed this new form of the material, right, which is we're going to be even using less of this material to give us the performance grade that we want in the bitumen. All the tests that have come back from independent laboratories in the US has proven that this material is a super material. It has positive effects on the pH of bitumen, right? To give you an example, our distributor in Germany, to make our product fit for use, he takes we ship a quarter ton of solid asphalt in a wooden drum. He breaks this open, he crushes it, and he repackages it in a bag, 20 kg bag with cellulose paper to prevent coalescence, to make it user-friendly for his end users. right? So with this new product, as a matter of fact, we even gone the extra mile of polymerizing the product. So if you have to pave a road in Greenland, for example, we already have it, the material is already polymerized, so we can get that low-end temperature flexibility. So, I mean, the future is bright once we start producing this material.
Okay, thank you. In terms of your new marketing strategies, what are those? I mean, okay.
All right, with regards to marketing, we have gone out extensively to China in particular. We have been expanding and having talks with people in Nigeria and Ghana in the African continent. We have now distributors available in the Middle East. So we have been very active in looking for new markets. Standard within all those markets is that our product, though great, is not user-friendly, so that anybody using our product have to invest in other pieces of equipment to reheat and to make our solid mass liquid before they can introduce it. That adds a lot of cost. The competing polymers, because they come in bags, they can just basically take them and throw them into the mix without any additional cost. And in order to compete with that, we have to create a product that will compete along the same lines. And that is why our trust into the coal mill technology and creating, what's that? A powder. It's one of the ways we'll become more competitive. Until we get there, people will use our products only for high-end purposes, airports, racetracks, but they will not be using it for normal run-of-the-mill first-grade roads because it just adds too much cost to their mix.
Do you intend to create any forward linkages with what you have existing, utilizing improved technology to ensure this jewel improves and maintains its profitability?
Yes.
And if you could tell us some of those.
Yes. One of the things that we keep talking about is paving roads. But together with the University of the West Indies and our own internal research, we have developed quite a few coatings and specialized products that we would wish to market within the next year or two. You would be probably familiar with the Lasco brand, and that particular brand, we are in fact now dealing with people in South Korea who do, well, this is a brochure here, who do car manufacturing to see if we can get those products into that line of production so that we can improve our whole Lasco brand. So it's not just, as we see it, we're not just selling road paving material. We wish to create a whole new substrata in terms of the products that we can offer local, regionally, and internationally using the research and development that we are doing in the background. But in terms of cost and investment, we need to start somewhere. And our priority at this time is to do the CMTLA, which is the coal mill process. When that process is done, we will then use the dry powdered material to do now a coal mist Lasco product. And Lasco, we heat the material and pour it and do a number of different things. The CMTLA will give us an additional advantage that we can now do a coal process for all our other downstream industries. So it's really not we're not a one product company. Okay. Everything we do is linked to the bitumen market. We cannot take pitch, for instance, and pave a road. It must be introduced into bitumen. And that is why we started earlier that saying we are a bitumen company. We have to understand it in order to market our product.
Okay. Given what you have in mind, your vision for the advancement of the company, Of the 300 employees you have in Labre, could you give us a sense of, firstly, how many of those 300 are from Labre and the environs? And secondly, have you identified any skills gaps and training needs to take you to where you need to be?
Roger.
All right, currently, over 80% of our employees are from the community of Labre and environs. What we have done from the human resource point of view is looked at the skills, competencies. What we have done as well, working with the board and management team, is produce a document which is our job profile, where we actually right now understand and appreciate within the organization, the employees, the competencies that are required within the different levels, where people are, the gaps, and the steps that we will need to take to close those gaps.
Okay, I'll come back to the question later on, but do you support any scholarship financing or funding via Lake Asphalt to anyone?
Could you repeat the question?
Do you provide any scholarships either to any affiliates of your organization or to any persons in the national community through Lake Asphalt?
Yeah, what we do support continuous development. So within our policies, employees who are continuing their training and development, we would support them in what way they can. Yes, people do write us, and we do provide support financially.
Okay, what percentage is outside of the company then do you support? Of the scholarship financing, how many persons would you say you provide financial assistance to outside of your immediate internal environment?
I don't have the information here right now, but I'll be able to get it and provide it at a later date.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, but before raising them, I just want to preface them with a couple of remarks. So to my mind, and I think a lot of ordinary people, pitch is a distillation of petroleum, right? It's a binding agent, it's water and impact resistant. And it's used for roads, it's used for waterproofing, it's used to make electrodes, carbon, steel, and pitch oil. Now, so there are many different uses for pitch. You say that you've been a sleeping giant, and I gather that you've been sleeping since 1816 because you've been using 1816 technology. My question is, do you have a research and development department? And have you been looking at the other potential uses of pitch?
All right. We don't have a research and development department. What we have done, we have hired a researcher, as a matter of fact, who was once employed at Lake Asphalt, who developed the Lasco range of products. We hired her to develop the new powdered form of the material and the polymerized version of the material. Together with UWI, who has done, they have developed a number of products, right? There's an MOU in place between UWI, and at this point in time, we are looking to market two of their products. One of them is a vertical seam sealer, and the other one is a anti-corrosive paint. It is sad that after all these years, that none of the universities have developed a faculty that revolves around asphalt. We have the best modifier in the world. I mean, we are supposed to be telling the world, hey, listen, this is how we use our material, right? Just how the process that the British has developed, we just continued along with it. We did nothing with it. And then, of course, the company became, I guess, probably pretty fat and lazy when they were making easy money from selling Petrotrin's bitumen.
So for a long time, the impression I have is that the model was you basically have this resource there, you extract it, you package it, and you sell it. But you've said it's not a user-friendly product, and it's not just selling road paving material. And so you're now competing with people who are using technology, these polymers, these Germans and whatnot. What's stopping Lake Asphalt from investing in research and development and bringing in your own technologists?
Well, this is what we have done. We invested in research and development, and hence we have a new product that we are given to the world, a new material that we are giving to the world.
So research would be in the product itself, the bitumen, the pitch. It would be in the extraction methods. It would be in the packaging.
Yes, we even changing the extraction method. At this point in time, we use bulldozers and overloaders, et cetera. Our new way of extraction will be via milling. And we have discovered that from milling the material, we start changing the material. Our research and development has showed us that.
Are there any other uses or applications for pitch?
Of course, I mean, waterproofing, you know, the seam sealers. I mean, we produce right now a black paint, anti-corrosive black paint. We produce the Lasco sealant, right? So, of course, there are a number of derivatives.
So there could be a number of spin-off downstream industries.
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Cockburn.
Thank you, that's okay. I noted in your submission that you would have indicated that your internal audit function is under-resourced by more than 50%. One, is that still the case? In addition to which, what is the impact of having an under-resourced internal audit function in the organization? And how do you ensure transparency and accountability?
It is impacting because in 2017, we established our balanced scorecard after we completed the strategic plan, because we needed to do the balanced scorecard to ensure that all of the objectives within the strat plan are being focused on. And after that, we were supposed to go into enterprise risk management. So without a fully functioning internal audit unit, it has impacted our thrust in getting that scorecard being properly assessed for risk and making sure that all of the objectives are being achieved. At this point in time, we have 3 auditors. So we do have our senior auditor present with us here, Mr. Denzel James, and along with 2 other auditors. So at least for the time being, we are concentrating on identifying the areas of highest risk within the organization, focusing on that. Thankfully, a lot of the ad hoc investigations that were taking place in the first few years, that has more or less abated. So we can now have the internal audit function just focusing on providing assurance and also facilitating the enterprise risk management system.
I noted you advertised most of your audit positions this year, but were unsuccessful in filling all of those positions. What is the reason for that inability to fill those positions?
The compensation package is very low. Plus that, given the geographical location of the company, which is within Le Bray, you actually have to get the type of competencies coming from outside of Le Bray per se. And as such, no one will leave, let's say, the east or west corridors, etc., to come down into Le Bray if it is the compensation package is not attractive.
So do you plan to probably give a scholarship, grant scholarships to your persons who are currently within the organization? Because if they're already there, they may be more likely to remain. So do you have any plans, 1, for succession planning, and 2, for building capacity internally by probably providing scholarships?
All right. One of the auditors actually came from the finance and accounting unit, so we were happy to have her. The only thing is that we have to spend about a year before we can use her doing any of the financial audits. But we did not contemplate on providing scholarships, but we are recognizing that, yes, that might be one of the incentives that we can use.
My last question has to do with the strategic objective of monetizing Lake Asphalt. And I noted, well, 1, sales dropped, and it's a combination of plant overhaul and low performance culture. Could you explain to the committee what is meant here by low performance culture?
Because of the process that is being used, you'd find that the full labor force is not geared up to that high level of performance at any one point in time. From the perspective of, if you have a continuous production, a continuous volume of production, you would find your labor force would be always peaking at that high level of performance. So it meant that the balance scorecard was used to try to bring that performance up because it carries what we call stretch, base, and min targets. So everything is around that. The status reports that are coming into the boardroom also have that stretch, base, and min targets so that nothing is done without it being measured. So we have been moving the culture of low performance into focused performance, and we expect that as we move into the new process, you'd have that continuous business flow.
If I should interject here. We going back to the 1800s, right? You see, Lake Asphalt functioned under a capacity which labor was actually called by a horn when the ships came in. And then you started to ramp up production to deal with loading these ships. So this culture more or less remained. And because of the present form of the product, it is not feasible to load and pack large volumes of unused pitch in the warehouses. So a kind of culture of we produce to deal with orders rather than this is a product that we could have like assets then, if you so therefore continuous production. So this is the new strive of our strategic plan. When we get into coal mill, we'll be able to continually produce, schedule, and even store, right? The asphalt in the new form, right? Because it had a longer shelf life, and that's what we talk about changing the culture, how we look at production.
Okay, thanks for that explanation, because I was concerned whether it was the human resources themselves, but it has to do with the systems and the processes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Brigadier General Antoine.
Good morning. In your submission, when you were asked what is the demand for the bituminous products, you have bitumen, 60, 70, asphalt, cement, emulsions. In your projection, your October 2018 to December 2019, and your projections from January 2019 to 2020, there's a great discrepancy. You have 120,000 gallons, 2018, 2019, over a 15-month period, but then you have 9 million gallons, January 2019 to December 2020, which is a 24-month period. What is the basis for these projections and the basis for the differences?
Our bitumen demand is contingent on government's road paving program. If there's significant road paving taking place, our sales are going to be up. You will see a significant drop in our sales of bitumen over the last 2 years, and that's because the road paving program has not taken off. So that's going to change significantly.
But your projections for 2019 to 2020 is based on the government. That's what's the basis for your projection?
Well, I mean, let's be brutally frank here. I mean, we have an election next year, and we assume that with the election, road paving is going to pick up. So that has been the tradition over the years, and I mean, history will prove that. So.
Mr. Mark.
May I ask the CEO, the chairman, is there a formal credit policy having regard to that matter being red flagged by your auditors some time ago? Is there a formal credit policy? at Lake Asphalt?
Yes, we would have drafted our policy and we have gotten the board approval. So we do have a credit policy.
Can you make a copy of that?
Sure.
Can you make a copy of that?
I will make it available. Sure.
And then in terms of one of the other areas that was mentioned, inadequate maintenance of a fixed assets register and the non-journalization of inventory transaction. Could you give us a status report on those two matters?
Sure. Having identified in previous audit reports the matter with the fixed assets and inventory, what we would have done as an organization is that we would have we bought a system, an enterprise reporting management system, Great Plains Microsoft Dynamics, whereby we are now able to have at a real time, at any point in time, have the information available relative to reporting. Where the fixed asset is concerned, we would have also invested in a TMA system, total maintenance system. We as an organization recognize information wasn't available, and when it was available, it was manual. We are now going to computerize, and it will go both for the inventory and for the fixed asset register system.
Can you provide this committee with a report on what has happened based on what you have said?
Sure.
To these two items. May I also ask, through the chair, the following? Could you give us, Mr. Chairman, the approximate reserve of raw asphalt sitting in the lake at this time? And can you give us also the daily extraction rate of the raw asphalt product in metric tons?
Well, there have been a number of figures touted, some saying about 400 years of use, etc. But at this point in time, our rate of extraction is like about 200 tons a day. And that is because the demands are soft.
And what is the maximum capacity based on your own analysis of your reserve without impacting negatively on the environment? You believe that if you are operating at optimum efficiency levels, you can extract on a daily basis?
The thing is that, and this is what makes this new product so exciting. Given with our old product, we needed to add 25% of our TLA into the bitumen to modify it to get a performance grade of 6416. Now with the CMTLA, we only need to use 15% to give us that performance grade. So we will add life to the lake your extraction rate is now going to be lower.
Could you also indicate the daily production, you said is about what?
200 to 300 tons.
2 to 3,000?
No, 100 tons a day that we extract.
100 tons a day?
We extract daily.
Right.
So roughly, right now we are producing 3,000 tons a month.
A month. What is the cost to the company when you extract at least 1 ton of raw asphalt? What is the cost for 1 ton?
Could we provide that to you in writing? And I will tell you why. There are a number of people outside there that are prospecting, et cetera, that will be listening to this meeting here today.
Right.
So we can provide that to you in writing.
Okay. Can you also indicate the companies and their location that you have purchase agreements with and what price you have arrived at in terms of metric tons? You want to also provide us that in writing?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
I think Mr. Mark was also driving at, if you could answer, what sort of metrics are available to tell us how efficiently and effectively you are performing?
We are performing under capacity right now. I mean, the plant has a capacity of about 50,000 tons a year. Right? Right now, we are just operating at about 36,000 tons a year, and that is because of soft demands for the material, right? But that is going to change. Once we have a material that is user-friendly, that's going to change tremendously.
Mr. Karam.
All right, before he goes on, I'd just like to clarify something that we need to put in the room, and that is that TLA, Trinidad Asphalt, is not a commodity product. There is this feeling out there that you produce asphalt and therefore it will sell. People do not buy asphalt to put on a shelf and look at it. Therefore, every ton we sell is specific to some project somewhere in the world. So if somebody wants to build a highway, they will come to us and they will buy only what they need to build that highway. We do not sell to people who do prospecting. So traders find it difficult to buy our material and use it. In fact, there is a client we once had in China who bought 15 or 20,000 tons thinking that they could have sold it and it's still on their hand because it was not associated with a particular project. And we need to make that distinction. So we could produce all the asphalt in the world. If they are not projects that they can be used on, they go nowhere. So I just wanted to make that clarification because there is this thinking that the more you produce, the more you sell. And it's a commodity that you buy across the board. It's not.
Thank you for that. Mr. Karam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I heard you correctly, you said you extract about 200 tons daily?
Yes.
All right. Out of that, how much is utilized or sold in the local market, and how much is exported?
Well, I mean, I couldn't give you the breakdown specifically. Now, from that, we will produce our AC, right? And some of it we will export. Some of it goes into our LASCO range of products.
But on the average, as a percentage, and if you could give us a ballpark figure as to what is utilized locally, because there's many persons who are complaining about the lack of infrastructure development and so on. I understand what your colleague said in terms of you can't buy it off the shelf. I understand that. The question I'm really asking is, what is the ratio of utilization in the domestic market as opposed to export?
Okay, this gives us the opportunity to promote the use of asphalt and road paving locally. Within the local market, the TLA that we sell is not highly used. Within the local market is only, and I just given percentages here, 0.1% of the TLA that we use. What used locally is the bitumen. Now there's the refined bitumen, the 60-70 that we refer to, that you could use for the road paving. Our modified asphalt or TLA modified bitumen is what we would recommend to be used. Now, as we said, we have the #1 modifier. It has been proven the use of our product ensures long-lasting pavements. Now, we always market the TLA that we sell as the Rolls Royce. It's a premium product which attracts a premium price. But we do understand the contractors of themselves may not like to use the modified version because it's a little more costly, but also the road lasts longer. We in LATT Asphalt want to take this opportunity for those who will be interested in the company and road paving on a whole. We do promote the use of the asphalt cement, which we sell, which is TLA modified bitumen. So the TLA, I just want to repeat, the TLA is more for the international market, the TLA of itself.
Are you satisfied with the uptake of the international market?
No. What we have done from a marketing perspective, we have done certain things. We have removed the exclusivity of distributors. We have expanded the distributors. We have done a serious thrust, an aggressive thrust towards meeting our current distributors and new distributors. For example, when we would have visited China. Locally, however, with the bitumen and where the bitumen is concerned, we have 94% of the local market because there's a local provider of bitumen as well, which is known that has a 6% margin.
Okay, just to follow up, you indicated before that in terms of moving the company forward, in terms of the marketability of the various products or diversifying the range as it were, or adding value, that you have secured the services of a researcher. Might you be able to tell us who that person is and what's the cost of that investment to that researcher and what really that researcher does? Because is it, maybe you should tell us rather and I suggest what it could be.
That researcher is Ms. Dolly Nicholas, and I will venture to say that she probably has the most research in this material in this country, right? She's quite a resource. She is the one who has developed the entire LASCO range of products.
How long now has she been on board as a researcher?
When we came into office, we hired her to develop the new powdered form of the material.
So 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And the only thing you have when the chairman asked the question about an R&D department, the only thing that you have is the R. You don't have a department as such.
No, there's not a department. No.
Why is it that if you have this ability, if you have this futuristic vision as to what this company should be in terms of the jewel, why is it, have you not seen it fit to increase the amount of R&D and to build the capacity into a unit for R&D sustainable?
Well, we haven't developed an in-house unit, but we have been making use of UWI, for example, who has done and who has developed a lot of new materials, and we are partnering with them.
To what extent the UWI relationship has added your commercialization value?
Well, we haven't started producing their products yet, as yet. We should be doing that sometime next year. We'll start producing their materials on a commercial basis.
Okay, do you have any desire or any intent to create a sustainable unit for R&D within the organization?
Yes, we do.
And by when you might do that?
That will be next year also.
Okay. Again, along the HR issues.
Sorry?
Yeah, along the HR issues, could you tell us how many vacancies do you have existing in the organization and by when you expect those to be filled?
I don't have the exact numbers here. I'll have to provide it.
All right. If you could also tell me the competencies that you're lacking, because I'm aware of some of the facilities, institutions like the NESC nearby by you, right. UTT in Point Fortin, MIC in Point Fortin, and so on. You spoke about your WI, but if you can also indicate to us what are your skills gap and how do you intend to fill those? 2 final questions, Mr. Chairman. If you can give us an idea, do you have any legal matters that is facing the organization? And if you can tell us, give us any details of those without, breaching the confidentiality of it?
Yes, they are.
Could you give us a sense as to what these matters are and how long have they been there?
Well, they have been there since we got into office. I mean, we can provide details, written details for you. Because a lot of the matters are sub judice at this point in time.
Okay. Could you also tell us about your status of your receivables and payables, which may be in there, but for us and the benefit of the people who are listening to this live broadcast?
All right. I'll have to, the information will be here, but I don't want to give the incorrect information with receivables and payables, so I'll be given.
Do you have monies outstanding to contractors? Have you paid? Are you up to date with your payments?
Do we have debt is concerned? No.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you will.
We have receivables.
When we get a financial.
I think Mr. Karim is on the same page as me because it really warmed my heart when I heard that you were saying that you had developed a new form of the material. You had a patent pending. But it seems as though you're relying entirely on external support. In the 21st century, you would think, given the resource that you sit on, that there would be some sort of value for creativity and innovation within the organization, and whether you are making any systemic attempts to stimulate creativity and innovation.
Well, we have a we are going to be expanding our technical services laboratory. At this point in time, it's just a quality lab. Given the fact that we are going into this new material, we will be expanding the services there, where we now have to go into things like PG testing, et cetera, because if we are selling to the international market, everything that we export, we must be able to say, okay, look, it meets this particular standard. So there is going to be expansion in that area, in the technical services area and the R&D area.
Yes.
Quickly, what percentage of your asset base, or in terms of your profits or your revenue, will you say that you spend on R&D? What percentage?
On R&D so far, since we have been there, we have expended like about $10 million, and that will be developing of the new CMTLA coal mill product, and also the polymerizing of this new product.
This has really been, finally to say, this has really been to seek external assistance for R&D, as opposed to building your internal capacity for leveraging your future marketability. Am I correct?
At this point in time,
I heard the answer yes, eh?
Sorry?
I heard the answer yes before you answered.
Listen, the in-house aspect of it will take a while to develop. Because we don't have the luxury of time. We had to go to someone who has had the experience, someone who knows this material intimately. So we had to outsource it.
Mr. Chair, if I could also interject here. I know he's being very cautious, but those of you who have had the privilege of working or serving on state enterprises would know that our structures move extremely slow. So to increase departments and increase staffing and to increase structures, sometimes you have to get creative, and I think this board has tried to utilize existing skill sets, especially with the university, to get the job done. We see, and if you look at our strategic plan, and at least me personally as a man from the South area, I have told them I'm hoping that sometime in a future state, we will be exporting less asphalt and more asphalt products. So I mean, that's where we see the company going, but we have to creep before we walk, you know, and we want to say that this is the vision we have, and we hope that whoever comes after would take the baton and continue in that general direction.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman. And in fact, this is a nice segue for me to ask a couple of questions of the Ministry of Finance, because as the shareholder, should we be not encouraging all our state enterprises to develop this systemic attempt to stimulate creativity and innovation and to value this whole creativity and innovation within organizations?
Yes, Chair, you're correct. We would like the state enterprises or state enterprises to look at innovation and have their organizational structure tailored to suit. We rely heavily on the line ministry that has the strategic focus for the sector to look more deeply into that area and collaborate with us, collaborate with the company first, and try to stimulate, as you have said, Chair. But yes, that would be our desire as corporation, so.
Mr. Henry?
Okay. Morning, everyone. Apologies for being a bit late. This is a question that comes up regularly when we deal with the state enterprises for the Ministry of Finance. In terms of what have you done in recent times to ensure the transparency and accountability of this particular enterprise? It's something that we ask frequently with just about every state enterprise. Can we, you're the Ministry of Finance first? Yeah.
Okay, through you, Chair. The Ministry of Finance, as you know, we are guided by the policy document, the State Enterprises Performance Manual. And there are several documents that are required for companies to produce in compliance with that manual. At this time of year, every year, we do a sort of a check as to how companies have complied with the documents. That is not to say that during the year we regularly keep on top of companies to ensure that they submit their board minutes on time, and we look at all the other requirements and we keep on top of them. I don't know if there's a specific area that you're looking into. I mean, the audited financial statements before you came in, we discussed that, and we're on top of the company so that they can move quickly towards becoming up to date.
I understand that, and thanks for your information, but I'm just saying, are there any specific challenges outside of the norm with Lake Asphalt?
Chair, we have communicated with the company with their reliance on the output of petrochem, and we have sought to ask them how they will wean themselves of dependence on the company. All right, so that was an area of concern for us, which we have communicated to the company and the ministry. The other area, and I think it comes from what has been raised earlier, a bit of a weakness in internal controls. All right, that triggered in 2016 the Ministry of Finance launching a systems audit between March and July of 2016, where there were weaknesses that were discovered, and that has led to us calling for a forensic audit. That is where we are at the moment. The forensic audit is to be commenced, I believe, shortly.
Okay.
And on that point, in submissions received from Lake Asphalt on page 9, when questioned about the company's adherence to tender rules and procedures, it was stated that there is one exception of note where LATT experienced challenges in complying with its standard tenders rules. This was in the case of the procurement of forensic audit services, which was recommended by Corporation Seoul. When was this recommendation made, and when was the matter reverted to Corporation Seoul?
Chair, I believe the recommendation for the forensic audit was early 2018. I'm just checking for some. All right, but I think it's earlier this year, we recommended that the forensic audit be conducted.
And was any feedback given to the company?
So we asked the company to launch the forensic audit, and they did issue an RFP. All right. The issue with that RFP was at evaluation. The evaluation that was used differed somewhat from what was launched in the RFP. So we raised an issue, and I believe the company is addressing that at the moment.
And in submissions received from the company, page 28, when questioned on what the company does to ensure transparency, accountability, and value for money of its finances, it was stated that the company has adopted several measures internally to ensure transparency, accountability, and value for money. When was that recommendation made by Corporation Sole? And when was the matter reverted to Corporation Sole?
I don't know if my colleagues has that information, but Chair, can I get that back to you, please?
All right, we're coming on to the end. Anybody has any questions? Okay, so wait, then you. Okay. Mr. Mark?
Yeah, you wanted to ask the chairman or the CEO, is there a practice or policy at the level of the company to have arrangements with companies for the exclusive distribution of products, that is, of its products, within Trinidad and Tobago, and to receive payment in cash? And could you tell us whether any such agreement has been entered into by your company, and with whom, and whether that agreement still exists?
We have taken a decision. When we came in, we met several exclusive arrangements. One of them was with a company in China that had an exclusive for the Chinese market with a take-or-pay contract. They weren't taking what they were supposed to, and we negotiated with them to be able to free up ourselves to have other distributors in the Chinese market. So our policy has been one of non-exclusivity. We are not offering any exclusive contracts to anybody for any market.
Locally? That is externally, but locally?
And locally.
So are you saying to this committee that, as far as you are aware, there's no agreement between your company, Lake Asphalt, and any local companies for the sale of the company's products exclusively on the Trinidad and Tobago market and to be paid in cash? I would like to know if you are categorically stating that you do not have in your records at this time a signed agreement between the CEO, not necessarily the current CEO, and not necessarily your good self as chairman. But do you have such an agreement, or are you aware of such an agreement?
I'm not aware of that such an agreement exists. CEO, you want to take that?
I'm not aware of any agreement, but I'll do some due diligence and get back to you.
Well, I want to invite you, in doing your due diligence, to look at an agreement which was signed on the first day of October 2008 between Lake Asphalt as the supplier and a company by the name of Specialist Asphalt Transport Company Limited. And there is no end date. There is no end date, Mr. Chairman. There is a starting date, Mr. Chairman, but there's no end date. So maybe that is why you are not aware, because this thing is forever. So I would like to know, on behalf of this committee, if you can supply us with this agreement, and if you can tell this committee whether in this transaction the company has agreed to receive the sale of products by this agreement only in cash, and whether that is a proper arrangement as far as you are aware.
this board, when we came in, we met a number of existing contracts that didn't seem to have an end date. As a matter of fact, there were contracts that we couldn't even find a start date. So we have mandated that every single contract has to go back out for tender. Now, this company you're referring to, Specialist Asphalt, as far as I'm aware, they transport our bitumen for us from Petrotrin to La Brea. That's the 180-200, right? But we have mandated management that every single contract must be retendered. For example, the mining of the lake. I mean, when we asked, okay, let's see a copy of it, we couldn't even find a copy of the contract. So all these things are going out for tender.
Yeah, you see, Mr. Chairman, the reason why I raise this is because you have said, and I agree with you, that this is a jewel. And this company has a monopoly. But yet still, we find that the company is not making the kind of profits that it ought to be making. And as you rightly said, there are agreements that are very questionable and suspect. And I think I would like to ask, through the chairman, for Lake Asphalt to make available to this company all those open-ended contracts that you have inherited, as you claim, and as well as those that have no start date, which is amazing. So you have no start date, you have no end date, and we have a situation where we are told that this arrangement is to be made in cash. So you could well appreciate the challenges that this company is faced with as it relates to its operations and what can be actually occurring as a result of this arrangement. So it's against this background, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask through you that all these agreements be made available to this committee so we can do our own analysis, evaluation, and assessment of those agreements, both in terms of non-starting dates as well as non-ending dates. Mr. Chairman.
So we will invite you to provide us with those documents. As we start winding down, I'm going to take 3 more questions in this order. Mr. Leonce, Mrs. Coburn, and Mr. Karim. Mr. Leonce.
Chair, thank you. Just stepping back a bit on some questions in terms of HR and training. Again, I'm impressed with the 2017-2022 strategic plan, and I think once these things can be achieved, Lake Asphalt will be, as you say, realized by the national community, the gem, and the sleeping giant will wake up. My question, I've been hearing you speaking about UTT and a researcher, and some of the members on the team here spoke about how are we going to get this technology transfer resident in Lake Asphalt and the training. Now, I know you all would have an organization chart specific to support this. And I heard one of your members also talk about the challenges in having this thing official, maybe approvals from CPO or whatsoever. So you spoke about some innovative ways to do this. And I would just like for you to ventilate a little bit more on what are some of the innovative ways that you all are using for this technology transfer and training, even without the complete process of CPO approvals and the full complement of the org chart. What are some of the innovative processes or strategies that you all have done to ensure that Lake Asphalt, even without the complete achievement of the strategic plan, how is that innovation supporting this?
Right now, the technology that we use, if I can find a analogy to it. Many years ago, we used steam to run the trains, right? Now trains are run by electronics and electricity. Our new plant will require a total shift of technology and in terms of the human resource that we require. Because right now, our process is steam-driven, right? We have no sophisticated control systems. Our new plant, however, will require such systems. So you're talking about a new breed of people, of employees. So we will have to sit with the bargaining unit because there will be positions that are non-existent in the present org structure and in the present bargaining arrangement. So this is a conversation that we have to have.
Well, okay, but this is a 5-year plan, which basically we already well into halfway or going into halfway of this plan. So I'm just thinking, I see you want to say something. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, one of the things that I think we need to expand on a little is our arrangement with UWI. And we've been talking about how do we get into innovation and research and development. One of the things that we recognize is that UE, as an intellectual organization, has a lot of capacity. They have been doing very meaningful work. We have made the first step of having an MOU with them with regard to the development of products. We have also spoken to them very preliminarily about support from Lake Asphalt for research and development within UE and the creation of maybe some different scholarships, because research and development, you don't walk out of a classroom today and start to do research and development tomorrow. So it's a long-term relationship. And in fostering that long-term relationship, we have committed to UE that, which is still in the preliminary stages of discussion, how Lake Asphalt and the UE can work in terms of the development of a complete research unit within the university that Lake Asphalt will be able to give both of resources, and UE will then develop the expertise. So in a true partnering arrangement, because at this point in time, we have so many other issues to deal with in bringing Lake Asphalt to best in class that we cannot go out the road, for instance, and pick up somebody who knows anything about asphalt and asphalt research.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you. I know time is of the essence. One of my colleagues would have spoken about doing scholarships and that kind of stuff. So I was just wondering if that was part of the strategy in terms of keeping the technology transfer resident.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
In my seat on the HR committee, we have been trying to introduce a graduate training program. But as you would understand, and this is not in lieu of making an excuse, we have been juggling so many crises in terms of managing this organization. We had to be a little prudent. So we know that where we have to get is a good graduate training program where we develop people who hopefully will have some loyalty to the organization and maybe would accept the not so market rates, okay? But we are juggling it and we are aware, and we think graduate training programs and maybe scholarships when the money becomes available. But we are trying to manage scarce resources to make sure that we have a sustainable organization in the future, while we also see how we can get the human resources that is available at market and in the community. But I understand your concern, but we can't spend money willy-nilly. We have to try and, through the CEO, manage our existing resources as carefully as possible.
Thank you. Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My area of concern is human resources. I note your comments and I get that you are on the right track. But we have a strategic plan, 5-year period. And I'm looking at some of the challenges you identified. Low skill bases, high percentage of unskilled staff unsuited to drive transformation into new technology. And as we are all aware, your human resources will determine whether your organization is successful or not. Top-heavy, inexperienced management and archaic organizational structure. And when you put that together with an aging workforce and a consequential loss of institutional memory, my area of concern is what can you get done within that short-term period, 5 years? Because if we are to achieve the objectives in the strategic plan, you need to have the right resources resident in the company. And based on the challenges identified, I'm not seeing it. In addition to which, I don't know how your balanced scorecard is working if you do not have a performance management system in place. So those are the areas of concern I wanted to have addressed by you.
Well, through the chair, a crisis is a good thing to waste, and we have a scenario with Petrotrin. I think we have a lot of young people right now who are underemployed. So we may very well in the short term go out to market, right, to get the kind of skill set required from among the community, because as you know, Petrotrin has, you know the situation with Petrotrin. So therefore we feel that the market for skilled, technically skilled people is a bit soft right now, to put it mildly. So we're hoping that we'll be able to recruit externally. When I say external but within the community, in the 3 to 5 year horizon. And definitely we intend to develop our graduate training program. I know one of the conditions of the new plant definitely is a whole skill set program, so that we would know, we would be part of the machinery that's comes with training and development. So we'd also be bringing in graduate trainees to help build that new trend for the new technology that we're going to bring into Lake Asphalt.
And are you satisfied that you have a new org structure that can drive this whole process?
Yes, we do. We recently created a COO position, with engineering capacity that's specific to drive that new trust, right? Because we felt that the research, development, and the engineering aspect of Lake Asphalt was so critical that we need to have a COO focusing on that kind of operation, and so we kind of like starting from on top, right? With that drive.
Mr. Karam, you have the last question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have a question each for the Ministry of Finance, since you have not been asked yet, and the Ministry of Energy. Before I do so, in keeping with the last issue that was raised, Mr. Chairman of the company, are you aware whether any positions have been filled or anyone has been employed without Cabinet's approval and CPO's guidelines?
I am not aware. The only positions that we have filled in our tenure, we had a HR manager we hired on contract. She has left. We have hired recently Corpsec. We have hired a COO. Those are the positions that we have, and we have confirmed the CEO who was acting after advertising internally.
So you have had no positions filled without, all these positions have been filled in accordance with Cabinet approval and CPO guidelines?
Yes, they have been. All these positions were advertised, right, and interviews conducted.
Okay, and therefore my question to the Ministry of Energy, are you satisfied as the oversight ministry, or one of, with the performance of the Lake Asphalt of Trinidad and Tobago? And if you are not, could you tell us why not?
In terms of the Ministry of Energy and our function with respect as the line ministry with Lake Asphalt, we continue to work with the company in several different areas. In terms of transparency and accountability, one of the key things that we are continuing to work with the company on is in terms of the getting up to date the annual administrative reports. And
are they up to date or are they outstanding?
They are still outstanding.
How many years?
We have outstanding up to way back to 2008. So we've been working to get those submissions. Part of that was the financial statements, the financial reports, and so they have been working on getting those completed so that they can be submitted along with the rest of the report.
So the question I'm asking is, are you satisfied?
Well, in terms of the reporting of the annual reports, of course, that is a statutory obligation. So in terms of that, we, as with all the other agencies, we are working with them. However, the Lake Asphalt is responsive, and so we do, when we make requests, we do continue to have dialogue and do get responses. So that is, we are satisfied in terms of that aspect, but of course, until they are all submitted, we won't be satisfied until they are all submitted and up to date.
Are there any other areas of concern?
Well, we worked as well, and we are working together with the company in terms of the change with respect to the importation now for the bitumen. So we have had, as soon as the closure of the refinery was announced, the company did submit a proposal, and we've had several discussions with them in terms of the way forward. And I think where they are at now, they have a plan in place which has been approved and seen both by the minister and the cabinet, and so we are satisfied in terms of the continued operations. What we've done as a ministry, we have looked for their strategic plan and our strategic plan alignment in terms of the future to ensure that the enterprise is in line with what the ministry wants to do and what we've overall adopted. Yes, we have seen the alignment. So we continue to work with them on all the different areas. With respect to the human resource areas, we do get information and request information on behalf of the Human Resource Advisory Committee. Okay. And so just recently, we were part of one of those meetings. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And finally, to the Ministry of Finance, are you satisfied that the Lake Asphalt Company is operating within the confines and the remit of the state enterprises operating manual as outlined? And have they been meeting all their statutory requirements? Are they timely? Are they up to date with the payment of taxes and other statutory deductions as outlined in the State Enterprising Performance Manual? The question again, are you satisfied that they're operating within the remit as has been so directed to the Ministry of Finance?
Through you, Chair. Thank you for the question. The Lake Asphalt Company is largely compliant with the submission of documents. But as I indicated earlier, we would have undertaken a systems audit that, as I said, that would have been triggered by some weaknesses in the internal controls. This is an opportunity for me to correct something earlier that the forensic audits, Chair, you asked me the question. We requested it in November 2016. All right, so that was on the heels of the systems audit. So with that said, we feel that there's need for improvement in internal controls and also in their procurement procedures.
Deductions are asked in terms of the statutory payments that are required by state companies. You know, we have seen some that have been lagging behind in terms of the payment of taxes and other deductions. Is the Lake Asphalt compliant in that regard and up to date?
Through you, Chair, I'm seeing in my notes some issues with payment of corporation tax. There's some accruals there. Of course, this is based on the audited financial statements that we have received up to 2013. All right, but I believe there's some payables in that area.
Thank you. I understand Mr. Simonette had one final question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In the light of the the new product that is being planned to be brought on, could I just have a clarification as to whether the company's ability to finance not just the technology, not just the mill, the new plant, but also creation of new packaging and marketing and so on, that the company is satisfied it has sufficient financial resources to bring that product to market, that new product launch to market?
At this point, we are quite satisfied that we have the ability to do it. The worst case scenario is that we go to market for financing if we can't do it from cash flow, but at this point in time, we are seeing that we can do it from our cash flows.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Now I'm going to invite closing remarks, first from the Ministry of Finance, then from the Ministry of Energy, and then from Lake Asphalt.
Thank you, Chairman, members, colleagues. We thank you for this discussion this morning, and we are happy that this current board at LATT is looking at more research and development and developing new products to increase market share. As I indicated, we look forward to the company strengthening in the area of internal controls and weaning itself of its dependence on Petrotrin, given the new strategic direction of the energy sector. And we look forward to better things from the company. And again, thank you for this inquiry.
Thank you.
The Ministry of Energy will continue to work with Lake Asphalt, understanding the need and also their desire to modernize and to move forward as a company. And really, our role will be to continue to ensure that whatever is done will be both, well, first for the benefit of the nation and to satisfy the local needs of as we move forward, and also especially with the case of the bitumen, as well as to ensure that they can expand internationally into some of the other areas and products. We note the questions from the committee with respect to research, development, and scholarships, and therefore we will have dialogue with them to ensure that we can see how these can be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. You have the final word.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the committee for this inquiry, and I hope that we are able to bring clarity as to what Lake Asphalt is about and to bring to the national community a sense of what Lake Asphalt is all about. Now, I say that this is a jewel because the modifying market internationally is worth $22 billion annually, right? But the best modifier in the world, we don't even have 0.25% of this market. With the new trust and the new product, I mean, Lake Asphalt can be a significant contributor to GDP. And I heard the PS talk about weaning ourselves from Petrotrin. Well, there's no weaning to be had because the mother is dead. But we will continue in bitumen. Bitumen is our business, and we will continue to be in the bitumen business. Thank you.
If I could just add, we want to thank Line Ministry, Corporation Seoul, the committee, Joint Select Committee, for this opportunity. And even as we knew we would achieve our strategic plan once given the opportunity. And one of the pillars that we have is stakeholder engagement and management, internal and external. And that's why I was so pleased to hear the Line Ministry say that working with us, we intend to respond in a timely manner. Given, for the example, the admin reports. We would have sent 2008 to 16, but because it is new to Lake Asphalt, some of the format wasn't, there were some questions which we did address, and we sent back a response, and they have responded, and we believe that in the next 2 weeks we'll be able to bring this to a closure. So once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all very much. I want to also thank the media and the viewing and listening audience. I will now suspend this meeting.